Hello everyone and welcome as the Culture Cache brings you another exciting week of the next issue. Get ready, fight fans. For the next 2 weeks, it'll be like a promo for a big wrestling pay-per-view as we bring you Superman vs. Batman. Now before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to Chip for making this awesome request of the Dark Knight vs. the Man of Steel. And as always, remember, we here at the Culture Cache love to hear your requests and thoughts. Feel free to like us and share us on Facebook and Twitter. And if you have a request that you guys would like to make, go to theculturecache.com and click donate. And feel free to donate on our Patreon and make any request you wish from any of our shows. Now without further ado, let's move on to the main event. Long before the dawn of justice, even before gods were among us, and yes, way before there was anything of DC being online, you could find several stories that attempted to answer the ageless question, what happens when Superman and Batman come to blows? If you go to any convention or any online forum, you're going to find people's opinions on both sides. Now, given most people want to look at it from one particular view or another. A lot of people look at it in the view of a fight between Superman and Doomsday. A lot of it looks at it in the sense of a fight between Batman and Luthor. Whether it's the physical or the battle of the mental, everyone's got their own opinions on this. And several writers over the years have tried to put their own spin. But the catch is always this. Every real example you ever see of Batman versus Superman is always under certain circumstances, whether it's mind control, an alternate universe where either Superman or Batman have snapped in some way and the other one has to bring the other one to justice. You never really see what would happen when the true form of Superman, as you would see in the main continuity, would go toe-to-toe in a knockdown drag-out against the true form of Batman. Now, to get us ready for the upcoming movie that's coming up here in just a few weeks, actually, I'm going to go ahead and nix a few ideas here. This is not going to be your iteration of Ultraman versus Owlman. You're not going to see, or we're not going to discuss the idea of an evil Superman pushed against Batman, per se, or an evil Batman versus Superman. The real debate here is what happens when these two friends, these two beings that have been friends and members of the Justice League together for so long, have a legit reason to fight. Who truly wins this fight? Is there even a fight to be had, or are a lot of Superman fans right? Is there no fight at all? Will Superman just move fast enough and be powerful enough to take down Bruce before he ever even has a chance? Arguments can be made for both. The catch is here is anytime, or I won't say any time, but most of the time when someone argues on Superman's behalf, they're looking at it from the sense of what happens when Superman's facing an opponent, like I mentioned earlier, Doomsday or Darkseid. They're looking at the powers and how powerful Superman is. And when you're arguing that argument against a foe like Batman, and you want to just flat out say Superman could do all these things and Batman's dead, there's no way, you pretty much are basically putting the two of them out in an open field, naked, with no way of Batman having any form of help whatsoever, man to man. Who wins the fight? Of course it's going to be Superman. I'm seriously talking no kryptonite hidden underneath the skin or in other places or anything. Legitimate man-to-man. Nothing weakening Superman. He wins. And you can't have that argument. That's not a fight. That's pretty much a murder, which like I mentioned a minute ago, that's not what Superman's going to do. Likewise, a lot of the people that want to argue Batman's side of it look at it in the sense of Batman's preparation skills, which is key to this fight. And that's the thing here. Anytime someone just flat out says, oh, without a shadow of a doubt, period, Batman's going to win this 100%, it's taking the argument in the opposite sense. What happens when Superman, without any idea that Batman has snapped and went crazy, decides to use Batman uses all of his arsenal and every idea and every bit of planning he's ever made over the years against Superman on him out of nowhere. No, Superman's not going to win that fight. Because we've seen over the years, Batman has several devices, lots of technology that hides his heartbeat, gives him stealth, the kryptonite ring, ability to create red sun radiation or sunlight or whatever you need to weaken Superman. And as long as Superman doesn't realize Batman's snap for whatever reason, Batman's got the jump on him. Batman's, for the most part, got better fighting skill than Superman. I say for the most part because if we take into account the true Superman in the main continuity, and I'm talking pre-New 52 at this point. New 52 is the current continuity, and I'll touch base on that on a second. But if we were going by everyone's idea of what Superman ought to be right now, that version of Superman does have his own form of martial arts he's studied over the years. And while it may or may not keep up with Bruce to a degree, Bruce definitely has a sharper edge on fighting. He's been training since he was so young, whereas Superman didn't really start doing that until he was well into his 20s, maybe late teens at best. Bruce was, a good bit younger when he was getting himself prepared for this. That's the key definition here. And that's one thing I want to actually give a shout out to Chip again for, because that was part of his request, was to mention this one part here. In Chip's request, he did mention the fact that pitting Superman, who is technically immortal, versus the Dark Knight, who fights from a position of mortality. That's the key here. Batman is so prepared and well trained because he is mortal. Superman isn't going to dodge these bullets whenever he knows he can take them. He's not mortal. So he's going to take those blows. He's going to stand there. He's quick. He's fast. And like I said, your epitome of Superman can think faster than most computers. We get that. The key here is would he? If he truly didn't think that he was in danger, why would he? Why not take that punch? Let that person break their hand. He knows he's impervious, or at least he's used to it anyway. It wasn't until he really started getting smacked around by the likes of Darkseid and Doomsday that he started kind of getting that sense of, maybe I'm not quite as invulnerable even when I'm at my full power as I thought. The true fight also doesn't really come down to the battle of power, or even to a degree the battle of wits, because both sides have had to face their fair share of those same battles already. Superman's number one enemy is Lex Luthor, who already challenges his mind all the time. Superman's already battling probably one of, if not the smartest man, not only on Earth, but in the entire DC universe, constantly. So that mental breakdown, that mental fight, Superman's already used to it. Likewise, Batman has already had to face so many enemies that are just naturally, or even to a degree unnaturally, stronger than him, faster than him. When it comes to Killer Croc, Bane, the man that broke him, yes, we will take into account the Venom, but these are beings that are a good bit stronger, and in some instances even faster than him. He's already had to challenge these fights and break it down and get around these extra abilities and powers these beings have. By the end of the day, the true fight between Batman and Superman is this. If you want to take the epitome of Superman and the epitome of Batman, the ultimate versions of both of them, and put them in this ultimate battle. We won't even 100% say a death battle per se, but an ultimate battle. It really truly comes down to one thing. Does Batman know it's coming? It won't matter what Superman does, because here's the key. Superman looks at the Justice League as his friends, his extended family. Batman does look at them as friends, but he looks at them as tools, another part of his utility belt. He loves them and cares for them. but he's not above going about saying, oh, hey, this would be the perfect thing that I need Green Lantern for, and rings him up and says, hey, I need you specifically to come here and help me with this one problem because you're the best tool for the job. Whereas Superman is going to jump in front of that and say, no, I don't want you there. I'm going to protect you. I don't care how good a helper you are. I'm going to jump in the way of that bullet. By the end of the day, the Justice League are part of Batman's tools. Even if we didn't count outside help from people, this is comic books. If Batman wants to invent something using all of his money and everything he's got access to technology-wise in the DC universe, and you think for 3 seconds Superman's gonna snap and go, you know what? I'm not even going to heat vision the Earth or destroy the Earth per se. I'm going to ignite the sun and just blow up the whole galaxy. There's nothing Batman's got to that, right? There have been so many times that they've shown in animated movies and the comic books and stuff that the Earth can get around solar flares, whether it's by technology or other people's superpowers. That's where the key is. If Bruce knows it's coming, he's got an answer. That's where the key to the fight is. Batman's going to he's already got all these ideas and things planned out. It's just, does he know it's there? If Superman were to snap tomorrow, if he could cover it up well enough that Bruce did not know it was about to happen, Superman wins the fight. If for even an instant Bruce thinks it's about to happen and it's coming, Bruce has a far better chance. I'll say that. I'm not going to 100% say Bruce wins the fight, but more than likely it's on Bruce's side at that point. All the preparation, everything he's got access to. And a lot of people are like, well, you can't count the outside help. Once again, Bruce looks at these as tools. And not only that, but if Superman were to go after Bruce like that from a, I have all these powers and I'm just going to go ahead and do this, the Justice League are going to jump in and help. And unlike Superman, who's going to say, nope, stand back, I've got this, Bruce is going to tell them strategy and say, hey, I need you over here, this is what we're going to do to take him down. He's going to lead. It's going to be his team, what he has access to. And that's the key. Batman fights from a sense of mortality. Superman does not. Batman's going to do what it takes. Superman thinks he is what it takes. Batman's not afraid to say, I need more than one answer. Superman thinks he is the answer. That's where it comes down to in the fight. Does Batman see it coming? That's the epitome of it all. You can see it in several books of the closest thing you're ever going to get to a legit Batman-Superman fight. The first one I'll touch on is the first thing that was one I mentioned earlier, actually, was when they first met in the New 52 reboot. Because here's the thing. It can really be, does Batman see it coming, or even at that point, for the New 52, it kind of threw in the fact of, at that point, Batman didn't even know Superman's powers. And to a degree, Batman and Superman didn't even know who each other were. I'm not counting the movie, that I'm going by the comics right now. In the New 52, when the Justice League first met, and Batman and Green Lantern are going after Superman to find answers, Batman's using everything, actually does use everything in his utility belt on Superman. Nothing works. He realizes he needs to talk Superman down. At this point, Batman does not 100% know Superman's full abilities, but he does know and admits that Superman's powers scare him. He's already tried to prepare for all this. He's already started trying to get something, find those answers, but he doesn't have it yet. At this point, if this were a Superman that kills, Superman would have won that fight. If all he wanted to do was get his answer to what he wanted and then break Batman's neck, it was over. That was done. Batman would not have won that fight. But once again, New 52 took over the main continuity, so this was the true Batman versus the true Superman currently. Superman would have won that fight had it went to an actual end. Obviously, it's a team-up book. It's how the Justice League formed, so it wasn't a true... There was no true ending. It was a true battle to a sense for Batman. He threw everything he had at him. But since the story was written in the sense of let's find a way to team up, we got to talk it out, there was no true winner. But if you take that instance, Superman had that one. Now I'm going to flip it around a little bit. Like I said, the fight comes down to does Batman see it coming, but that's once again, that's touching base on if Superman were to snap and is turned into a death battle. Or even if it was just a one-on-one, let's give it our best fight. At least at that point, once again, Batman sees it coming, he's going to use everything he's got. One thing I don't think DC's ever really touched on is what happens when Bruce snaps. Bruce has gotten dark. He created Brother Eye, he started spying on everyone, he started getting really paranoid right before Identity Crisis. But he never actually full-on snapped. We've seen in games and comics and stuff, and to some forms, we've seen what happens when Superman snaps, when something just breaks his will. He goes too far. We've not seen that for Batman. What happens when Batman snaps? Who's safe? This is a man that everyone has felt will never snap, which is amusing because he's just a guy dressed in a bat costume who's been pushed too far at a young age, watching his parents murdered in front of him. Even his villains are some of the most psychotic, deranged, dangerous foes in the entire DC universe, and it shows. For all Luthor's cunning, he can't plan for the Joker. No one can plan for the Joker. Even if we don't take the Joker into consideration. The Penguin, mastermind when it comes to the mob and running the city. Scarecrow has even gotten an upgrade recently with the Sinestro Core ring, which just fuels his own fear powers. All of these villains are designed around fear, control, and just absolutely being brutal. Basically the epitome of chaotic evil. But in the midst of all this, every hero in the DC universe puts their faith in Batman. The one man who faces these absolutely crazy villains, they trust he's not going to snap. They've all given him stuff to help keep it to where if something happens and they get controlled or they snap, they feel like if something happens, they get pushed too far, they want to be stopped. The Kryptonite ring, there have been devices in the New 52, even in Justice League, where he even shows he's got a box full of stuff that the Justice League have given him to help stop them if something happens and they go too far and they need to be stopped. But nobody has questioned what happens if Bruce snaps. What happens when the man that has an answer to everything snaps? Can Superman win that fight? Even if Superman does see it coming, because that's the key here. For Batman, he's so well prepared, so in touch with that mortality of making sure I have to have an answer because if I go down, that's it. We're done. His paranoia, his fear of I have to be... See, that's the thing. For Superman, he always feels he's immortal, so he feels he should be the answer. He has to be the answer because he has to protect everybody from everyone. Batman sees the evil in the world, and even the evil in the best of men, including Superman. And his mortality says, I have to be the answer. Because if I don't have an answer to everything, and I go down, that's it. Superman will even say, and has said before, that if he goes down, he's got backup plans, people that he trusts to take over. While Batman has people he can trust to a degree, he still works within that realm of, I have to be the one to finish this and take care of it, because I don't fully 100% trust anybody to take over for me. If I go down, that's it, we're done. So he has all these answers to everything. For Superman versus Batman, if Superman snaps, it's just a question of Batman notices. The opposite way around, does it even help for Superman to notice? How do you get prepared for Batman? How do you get prepared for the man that already has an answer to everything you are and everything that everyone else around you is? How do you handle that? All of a sudden, the fight becomes a lot more one-sided, a lot more dangerous, and not the way a lot of people would think. Because it's no longer all of Superman's power versus this one guy in a bat costume. It's this guy in a bat costume that has spent years and years and years creating this arsenal, these variety of weapons, these bunkers, these secrets that no one else knows, these satellites, all of this. Has all these things, and all of a sudden, the Joker pushes him too far. Alfred dies. Dick Grayson dies. Something, somewhere happens. He can't take it anymore. And he snaps. Does it even matter at that point that Superman sees it coming? Is there anything Superman has that Batman can't already access? If we take the epitome of what Batman is, Batman already knows the Kryptonian language. Chances are most of his Bat computer, his databases he has, can already hack into it and take over the Fortress of Solitude. There's nothing there for that Superman can just go someplace safe at that point. Except possibly off-Earth. But even then, each hero's mental state is a very large, if not the largest factor of a fight between these two heroes. The key here is, or I say the key, there's several keys here, but another factor I want to mention is their upbringing. Superman was orphaned at a young age, obviously a very young age, baby, and but had adopted parents. And they raised him out on a farm. He was raised in this wonderful environment. And so as he was brought up, he was raised to use his powers to protect people because it's just the right thing to do. And because he has these powers, he has this responsibility. And so the more powerful he gets, the more responsibility he has. So he needs to be able to protect all these people. Batman comes from a darker sense. He lost his parents right in front of him. And even with Alfred there helping to take care of him, his mental state was, I have to put myself in a position to make sure things like this never happen again for anybody else. Superman wasn't traumatized, Batman was. You add that into the fact of, once again, Superman knowing he's practically immortal versus Batman's knowing his mortality. And that right there very much defines the fight you're going to see. Now, I'm running short on time, but this is going to be a very big topic for us, and I'm kind of laying the groundwork on this first video to give you the sense of what we're going to be touching base on here in the next 2 weeks. I mentioned the New 52 fight because that's the newest version of the heroes and the newest fight of a newest version of a fair fight between the two that you can see. Over the next couple weeks, I'm going to be touching base on a few other quote-unquote closest things you're going to see to a real fight between the, once again, quote-unquote, real versions of these heroes, including the closest thing you probably will see to what the fight would truly be like, and that's The Dark Knight Returns. I'll catch you guys next week for the next segment, right here on the next issue.